because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
Welcome back to the Goats Track, the podcast about golf and golf-adjacent stuff, mostly from Africa. My name is Terence. Some people call me T, others people call me TBag. Joined by my partner in golf course slander this evening. Hello, Jacques.
TBag, thanks. I would say when you said joined by my partner in golf course slander, I think everyone would be waiting for you to introduce Hoff. But no, you get me. I'm a bit more lenient, I think, than some of Hoff with his golf course takes.
More knowledgeable, I think, is probably the better word to use. I think your palate is a bit more refined. JDV, tonight we are ranking par threes in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. So if you're a first-time listener to the show, guys, JDV and I, in fact, the whole Go Track crew, are actually based in KwaZulu-Natal, otherwise known as KZN. And to be honest, as much as we've played a lot of golf across South and Southern Africa, we haven't been brave enough yet to do a ranking in another province. JDV, I'm sure once we get past north of 100 episodes, we are going to have to dip our toe and do that. But we're staying in our comfort zone tonight. It's nice and it's getting nice and sweaty here down on the north coast of KZN JDV. So it feels like a good time to do this par 3 ranking.
Yeah, I think, with par 3s, you mentioned it. You said it's, we did the par 5 rankings, the KZN Par 5 rankings. Par 3s are always a little bit, I suppose, trickier because almost you lean a bit more on the aesthetics of the hole because, you want to almost say there's less strategy in a par 3 because you're not playing as many shots, or you shouldn't be playing as many shots as a par 4 and a par 5. But I do think KZN, with the golf courses that we have and the environment that we have on the coast in the Berg, I've just seen Kath walked in with some wine here, so I'm definitely going to take that up. We've got quite an array of environments to choose from. So I think, whether it's at the coast, whether it's in the Berg, whether it's in the Midlands, there's a huge variety of different par 3s that we've got to choose from in KZN, which is, an absolute treat. Yeah, I mean, I won't get too far into it, but obviously, I mean, as you mentioned, the other golf courses outside of KZN, the reason I think we're not so keen on doing it is because we've pretty much played all of the golf courses in KZN. I mean, there's still a couple. When I say a couple that I haven't played, there's none in the top 100 that I haven't played, and probably none in the top 150, barring maybe Richards Bay, that I haven't played. So I feel like I've at least played the majority of the holes, whereas if we started making a list in Gauteng or even Eastern Cape, where I think you and I have actually played quite a lot of golf, I feel bad because we would probably leave out some gems just because we haven't played them.
Yeah, 100%. Just you touched it on it there, guys. If you want to go listen to that episode, it was actually episode 19 we did, JDV. That was good 18 months ago. Our KZN Par 5 ranking. I think that ranking is probably going to need to be updated. We've had a couple of golf courses open and changed since then. But I agree with you. I think the natural beauty of KZN and the diversity of the terrain and the topography that we have here and the location of the golf courses really lends itself towards having some beautiful par 3s. And I think that sort of is a good segue into my first question to you, which is what is it about a par 3 in your opinion that makes it a great hole?
So I can give you the exam answer, or I can give you my answer. If we look, okay, yeah, from my answer,
it's a subjective podcast.
Again, I want something that is, and I understand that par 3 variety needs to challenge, different clubs in your bag. I do have an issue on golf courses, and I'll shout it out because I mentioned it to you, and I forgot to mention on our Zimbali Lakes golf course review, but Victoria Country Club's got the same issue where you're hitting the same, essentially 7 or 8 iron for me on all of the par 3s, where I do think a course needs to have a variety of lengths, I think would be my starting point, because I think whether you're hitting a short iron, a mid iron, or a long iron into par 3s, it's challenging something different. And it's a time when I suppose the architect can ask a particular, or the designer can ask a particular question of you and say, right, I need you to hit this specific distance on this topography, with this sort of a green sloping you can bail out left or right, so it's sort of asks you to hit a shot shape sometimes, and especially with the prevailing winds, it's asking you to possibly control your trajectory. So what do I like? I like a shorter par 3, if I'm being completely honest, and maybe that's just, again, going to my bias towards playability. I'm not a long hitter, so it is quite nice where I can sort of have a choice of wedges in terms of what I want to hit into a par 3. But that being said, I wanted to make an honorable mention. I'm not sure which hole it is in Humewood. It might be the third. I must just double check. Sorry, I should have prepared for that one. But there's a par 3 in Humewood that I remember hitting like a 3-wood or a driver on. And I loved that hole. I thought it was awesome because, again, if you're going to add length to a par 3, you've got to be a bit circumspect about the penalty that you put in if you miss the green. And as I think you get a bit shorter, you can get a bit more frisk with how much penalties and how severe the penalties are for missing the green. The way that I look at it, I think I want to have aesthetics is a big thing for me. And when I say aesthetics, I mean, I want to stand on a par 3 and have a bit of a wow factor in terms of what it looks like. So the framing of the hole, how it looks. I want to generally be hitting a short iron, but you'll see from my picks that they're not all short irons, because I do understand the need for a bit of variety there. It has to have a good green complex. And I think to go back to the point I was making about, longer par 3s with less penalty, I don't really like a par 3 that's long and is penal, because, then it's almost like beating you up twice. So very long answer. That's sort of my idea. I'm interested to hear what you think.
I think that par 3s are super unique in that they often are a place where, sometimes because of the pace of play and stuff like that, sometimes it's often a place where you might spend a couple more extra minutes than normal standing on a tee box. You might be waiting for a group, or maybe it might come down to like club selection. And that, for me, in some ways almost it got me thinking about what makes a par 3. And it's definitely not standing on the tee box for bad pace of play. But I think there's an interesting dynamic that happens when it's one of the few parts of the round where you're standing with your fellow golfers with often short irons in your hand, trying to decide almost in some way, sometimes as a group, sometimes there's strategy around not like letting your playing partners know what club you're hitting. But there's this like mystery around, what did he hit? What am I going to hit? That doesn't happen anywhere else on the golf course. Very seldom are you right next to somebody on the fairway at the same yardage. So I think that is the really interesting part about a par 3. For me, obviously, there's 4 things, JDV, that I wrote down here. The scenery is obviously a big one, and I think almost more than any other type of hole, I think because there's probably a little bit less strategy that comes into play on a par 3. I think that the general scenery, and that's sort of in the near and the far range, it does have a big impact, and often because of that fact that you are standing on that tee for maybe a little bit longer than other holes. Second one is, does it change at all in different conditions? So could you be hitting wildly different clubs on 2 different days, in a downwind or a into the wind? Are there different tee options where, some days you might be playing back and forward? And then same story with the green. Does the green have lots of different pin placements where you might be choosing between 2 or 3 different clubs depending on where the pin is? So JDV, that's that. Sorry, I see my camera's on the flick already, which is a really tough start. 10 minutes in. Is there a third thing, JDV, is there movement of the ball once it hits the ground? So are there some slopes, some interesting contours that possibly will that will move the ball? And then I think one of the exciting things about par 3s is as soon as someone hits a shot, there's always some sort of level of uncertainty while the ball is in the air as to, have they picked the right club? And that's sort of an experience you have as a collective group around watching that ball and then seeing it either it ends up short, like in the water, or it's way too much club, or it's perfect, And I think that's if that level of uncertainty is heightened because of the distance or the wind or a particular penalty area, then I think that is an interesting par 3 to me.
Terence, I just want to find out, firstly, do you not have a a camera in your laptop. And you have to connect. Basically, it looks like a camera that like a 18-year-old would have taken to like Fry Tuck's in her handbag. That you connect this camera to your setup.
No. It's
Did you used to work for
actually
Thunder? Is that why you
it's
got one of
my
these?
it's my DSLR camera, but the problem is it doesn't run off. You have to charge the battery fully before you use it. It connects to your computer, but it doesn't use your power from your computer. It's a standalone. It like really wants to be on its own. So it's a tough scene. All right, so nice little intermission there, JDV. Beautiful technical problems, and we're into episode 77, and we are still hacking our way. JDV, let's just dive right in. I want you to start off. So basically, guys, the way this works, the way our ranking system works is what happens is we each nominate somewhere in the region of 5 to 10 holes. We then compare our lists and we see which holes we have that are overlapping. Hopefully, we have 5+ holes. Otherwise, it's going to be tough to do a top 5 ranking. Well, we may need to convert.
Then it'll be great because then it's going to become a full-on debate.
To add some holes. And then what we're going to do, previously what we did with the par 5s is we did quite a detailed scoring system. Honestly, it was a bit complex and a bit like the SA Top 100. I think it brought a lot of things into question around some of the scoring criteria. So we're purely going to do this as an eye test. And so once we have our common holes, you and I are gonna go back and forth and power rank them until we have the definitive top 5 par 3s in KZN. So without further ado, JDV, please begin.
Okay, well, T, I think it's only appropriate that we go one for one here. So I'll give you some time to cram your homework while I give you my special mentions to start. So these are the ones that I wanted to shout out, but that didn't make the list. So the one I'm going to shout out first.
I can tell you've done some homework if you've got a special mention list.
No, I do have a special mention list. I
certainly don't have that.
Probably got more than that. So the first one I wanted to shout out is just because it was up there as one of my favorite courses, and it's just such a flipping, like, I know that this is one that probably Guy would be like rolling around for is the only 12th hole, but just because it's got like it's almost like so bad it's good. I don't know if you agree with that. It's like a straight uphill 130 meter par 3. It is like bush left and right. It's all you can see is the flagstick. You have if you're playing there for the first time, you have absolutely no idea what the green looks like, what you're hitting into. Are there bunkers left and right? Maybe. If you shape the shot at all, you might hit some trees because it's like you're teeing from low to high. You've got no idea what the wind is doing once that ball gets past the trees. And I have to shout it out. I've heard the story from numerous sources, but it was recorded as the top hole in South Africa for where people made a hole in one. And it was like uncovered at a later stage that everyone was making hole in ones there is because the caddies used to stand on the green and you can't see the actual hole. You can just see the top of the flag. And the caddies would, any shot that got close to the hole, they would just go nuts for and basically kick the ball into the hole and get a massive tip at the end of it. So anyone who got a hole in one on the 12th at Umdoni, we're gonna raise our eyebrows at you for a bit because.
So if you see that certificate or that photograph in someone's pub, just know, guys, there's a little asterisk on that particular hole in one if that's their one they've got hanging up in the pub.
But yeah, I had to make mention of that. It's just such a quirky, ridiculous hole, and I mean, again, that's probably where a lot of guys takes. When I said it was one of my favorite courses come from, and it's difficult to argue with them, but at the same time, like. It does have some elements of fun to it when you're standing at the bottom hitting what would you say the elevation change from the bottom of that tee to try, like what are you hitting up towards?
Yeah, I mean it's a good like 15 meters, I would say, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but it might even be more than that. It might be 20 meters. I don't actually know. I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm not sure there's a wilder uphill par 3 in South Africa. And if anyone's played one, JDV, I don't know if you can think of another one off the top of your head.
That's why I mentioned it.
You know what? I don't dislike that hole as much as other people. Like, I kind of enjoy that hole.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's
not going to be on my list. Yeah. But it's there's something about the fact that it's such a wild elevation change that you're like, you're really puzzling as to what club to hit. And it's also pretty scenic because you're heading up through that forest. And then it's such an unknown until you literally get up to greenside as to like how you've turned out. I mean, obviously if you hit like a really bad one, but otherwise it's like, I mean, I remember hitting some where I thought that they're going to be stiff and they like well long or they're short or whatever. So I kind of don't mind that hole. I wouldn't want to play 4 holes like that on one course, but no. I don't mind that one. It's very quick. Yeah, I hear you.
So I had to mention that. I wanted to mention, it's not on my list, I think it's the 9th. I'm pretty certain it's the 9th at the Mount Edgecombe Woods course. It's the Island Green. Is it the 9th or the 18th, Terence? I know that they switched the 9s at some stage, then maybe switched them back again. I think it's the front 9 now.
At the Woods course, I think that's the 9th. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Either the 9th or the 18th. I'm pretty certain it's the 9th.
I mean, it's
one of the closing holes. That's either the 9th or the 18th. The one that's not the par 4.
Yeah, of course.
And I like that hole. I think a lot of these par 3s have, similar, I suppose, aspects that draw me towards them. I like a semi-island green. I like a bit of an elevation change. That's the opposite to the Abdoni one, which is teeing up high and hitting it low, so that you got a visual of the green, but that you need to think about your shots a bit. But I like the one at Mount Edgecombe because it's where it is. It's a long hole as well. I mean, I've seen guys hitting woods in there, so it's not a short hole. My other mention was, I'm not going to pick any of them in particular, but Simbiti has obviously a lot of par 3s, and they're all very well conditioned, and they all lack a hole. So if I had to be pressed to pick one, I'd probably pick 17, just for where it is in the sort of the round. I mean, it's getting tight. You're putting together a good round, and you've got like an 80-meter downhill shot onto literally an island green.
Well, I was about to say when you said they all lack of holes, I was like, well, are they? I'm sorry, I don't have time for that hole. It's short, it's fun. Yeah,
I had to give it a special mention. So let me actually, can I tell you what I'm mentioning all of these things? Because have you ever read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell?
Negative.
So Blink, in this book by Malcolm Gladwell, his hypothesis is that, the best decisions are made in a flash. It's like what everyone would call like it's your gut feeling. And he basically spends the whole book telling you that, you should go with that like gut reaction and your gut feeling. Like what can you remember? Like what comes to mind? If someone says, Jacques, what's your favorite par 3s? It's like, okay, well, what are the first 5 that come to mind? Those should be the ones that I put down. But the biggest problem I've got with that book is that like he spends the last 3 chapters telling you about all the stories about where people made these snap decisions and got it completely wrong. So I was like, saying to Kath, I was like, so what is the book saying? It's like, trust your guts, except when you shouldn't. It's like, I don't know what to take away from that. But I think he was sort of saying more like, if you're like an absolute expert, like your subconscious picks up what's a good hole and what isn't. Again, going to the last three chapters, I probably can't qualify myself as like an absolute expert. So my gut decisions might not be the best. Hence, I'm only 12th and some BT 17, which objectively might not be the best holes, but certainly for me, like jump to mind and are memorable. Which then brings me to
so you're not following Malcolm Gladwell's advice.
So I am following it as advice. I mean, I'm basically going with these Blink decisions, and that's got nothing to do with the time it took to prepare all these takes.
How many holes are you planning on listing here? And when are you going to start your list? Because feels like you're covering 8. Yourself here a little bit with
a couple of special mentions.
This isn't on my list, but I'm just going to mention it quickly. Okay.
So I've got 8 actual ones on my list. But here's my last special mention. I'm going to share this one, but I'll explain it for everyone listening. We have discussed this hole at length, and it is none other than the Umkho 13th hole. So Umkho it's 164 meter par 3. It looks like an elevated green, but if anything, it's probably on the same level as the tee box. But I think for me, again, we're talking about aesthetics. It's just the vista of it is unbelievable. I mean, you've got the ocean behind it. It's sort of perched on a bit of a hill with bunkers front and right. And when we played it, it just for me is a really just solid hole, especially for what Umkho, in terms of what they're working with and the land and the budgets and the rest of it. I really like this hole at Umkho. Yeah, I don't know if this was on your list.
No, okay. So I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, when I'm adding a hole that you've got, but that hole slaps. I love that hole. I think it's super cool, and I've added it to my list. So
okay, so let
it's
me
obviously not
leave
going
it
to
there.
make it.
And let me let you take that one over then, because then I'll go into my ones. Like, I don't know if you wanted to maybe mention why it should make the list, because I could honestly be convinced that should be part of the top 5.
So I think it ticks the boxes of scenery, like on like a very high level. I mean, it's basically that golf course is such an adventure, and I think where that hole sits in the round is also what makes it. You've just played like a short par 4, and then essentially you're now at the like crest of the hill, and you're about to start your journey like down the hill. And you play this, like, as you say, it's like a fairly level-ish. It looks like it's downhill, but it's not actually that downhill. And I think like the wind, you basically, depending on the wind direction there, it's either going to be off your left or off your right. So it's not easy in terms of like, it's not just straight downwind or into the wind. And then so it's a tricky tee shot. It's like the green's a little bit angled, and then when you're on the green, you have that like infinity green vibe with the ocean like in the background. That hole's legitimately was one of my favorite holes at Umkho. I had totally blanked on that one, so thanks for bringing it up. Love that hole.
I think what it I also have to mention, it's a very flat green, and the other aspect that I wanted to mention is that for me, a hole that almost like does too much is not good. So if you're going to have a tricky tee shot, don't have a ridiculously difficult green as well. Or if you're going to have a very straightforward tee shot, then have a difficult green. But for me, it's got to be playable for like all the handicaps, and you've got to pick where your challenge is in the hole. So for me, it's a medium length hole. You're hitting a mid iron. You're probably going to be smacked with wind. If you hit the green, like you don't want to now be trying to deal with huge undulations. And I suppose definitely with the wind that they've got there, I mean that's possibly the reason why. But I wanted to make that point. The other thing you mentioned, T, before we had our technical issues that I wanted to raise is, and I know this is a proper go track take, but the aspect of where the drop zone is. So I know like some of these holes where a lot of them are like water in front and there's like OB around it. Does it make any impact for you? I'm thinking about like some of the holes that I might mention here. Like the drop zones are almost like also quite epic, almost par 3s within themselves, but if they don't have a good drop zone and you're like, oh, well, stuff you re-tee, or it's like OB or lost ball or whatever, re-tee. Like for me, that also sort of, I mean, the pros aren't worried about where the drop zone is. Whereas I think for our level of golfer, it is maybe something worth considering.
Funny you say that, like that 17th at Mbiti, like actually the drop zone there is pretty sick because it's basically like you still have like a 20 meter like awkward chip to what is still an island green. The last time I played there, we hit between us in our 4-ball, we hit 7 shots to that green, and there was only one ball on the green. I was the only one who walked down the stairs to putt because the other 3 guys both hit 2 balls each into the pond, one from the tee, one from the drop zone each. So yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying about the drop zone. Yeah. I think it's like a secondary thing for me, but it can. Some of those drop zones are truly terrifying.
Well, let me jump right in here because I think it feeds quite nicely into what I suppose. Classic disclaimer: I'm a member of the course. I'm wearing a shirt of theirs while we do this podcast. But Cotswold Downs, 5th hole, one of the signature holes. You'll see it on a lot of the sort of marketing material. The big thing for me on this one, let's just quickly have a look at it. It's a extremely downhill par 3 to a big green, stroke 18. It's I think about 165 meters, but is probably playing about a pitching wedge or a 9 iron. Nicholas Bingham, who listens and who has called this probably the biggest Mickey Mouse hole he's ever played. I quite enjoy it. I think it offers something different. I think if you haven't played it before, I've seen someone take a 6-iron there thinking, oh, it's 165 meters and like almost hit the houses behind the green. The other thing worth mentioning is it's got a enormous hole-in-one prize on it. They've had to actually change that hole-in-one prize over the years, given all of the amounts that they were paying out. And the issue was that it was getting to like 500,000 rand, and then like someone would win it, and the next oak would get it like the next week, and they'd be winning like 5,000 rand. So now what they've done is they've got it to 50,000 rand, and then they've sort of stopped it. So I've got a little flyer over here for those of you obviously who are not watching on YouTube. I'm going to explain it. So there we go. I nailed it.
Our massive YouTube audience.
Yeah, 160 meters from the men's tee. As you can see, as it flies over, it starts buffering quite nicely before it gets to the green. But yeah, I think for the most part, flanking left and right bunkers, a lot of water in the front, but the drop zone is also just in front of the water. So you've got to still hit over the water to get onto that green. Very large, I call it a teardrop green, which tapers towards the back. So if you've got a back pin, and again, it's a sort of a 2, almost a 3-tier green. If you've got a back pin, you're playing to less green, but obviously you're taking out the water issues. Whereas if you've got a front pin, there's a lot more green to hit, but you're bringing the water into play. I don't know, T. I think this is a good hole. I mean, did you give it any thoughts?
Your list.
I mean, I'm asking, is this on your list or not?
It's absolutely not on my list. No, I'm in the camp of I really don't like this hole. I look, standing up there and watching the ball flying in the air, there is that level of like, okay, uncertainty as to where it isn't going to land. The balls do absolutely nothing when they hit the green because it's such a severe drop. All that happens is that the ball just dies. Straight into its pitch mark. Very seldom do you see a ball rolling. So there's very little like anticipation of like something happening once the ball's hit the green, and is it like rolling down a slope or whatever. I think the green is like way too big considering you're hitting like a 9-iron or a pitching wedge. I get that maybe you can move the pin around and that, but I think I've said this to you, JDV, and I think a quick fix for that hole would be to add a tee box like way to the left-hand side down that boundary line. Come down a little bit in elevation. Yeah, come down a little bit in elevation so that you're not hitting, just landing like straight down. And then you'll also be hitting across the green a little bit, so it'll bring the bunker in the left to play. It'll bring the water into play on the right because that'll be a bit of a right miss. So I think that angle would be much more interesting into that green. Whereas now, to me, it's like dropping it's like standing on a bridge and like trying to drop like a marble into like a big bucket. It's like oh, it's kind of interesting. It's interesting, and then it's like, oh, it's in the bucket. Okay, it's like that's it. Like there's like it just doesn't do anything for me. So sorry, man. It's not going to make the top 5, but.
You give your one so I can shit all over it.
JDV, I'm probably going to play a couple of familiar notes here. Okay, so that was your first hole. I'm gonna throw in the
that one off the list. Let me just take that one off the list.
That's gone. I'm gonna start off with probably a bit of a crowd favorite, and that's the 4th hole at Southbroom.
Yeah, got it.
So this tee box sits like right on the ocean. I mean, literally, you're almost you're like on the rocks here. Just for that fact, it's like probably one of the wilder tee boxes, I think, anywhere in KZN. And then I think the hole itself is interesting because obviously being in the ocean, you're now exposed to that wind. So I'm just sharing a little picture of it there. But
one step ahead of you, T.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry. But yeah, it's got that like real elemental feel. And then obviously because you're there and you're getting, often hit by the wind, unless you've got it on a beautiful day, you really puzzle. It's a short hole. I think it's only about 115 meters, JDV. but it's got two pretty deep bunkers, sort of front left and back left, and then it's got the two smaller bunkers on the right. And I think just from a pure scenery and like experience perspective, I think you'll struggle to find. I know some of our coastal courses, like Prazula and Pinnacle Point and that have got some awesome tee boxes in that, but I think like proximity to like the actual sea here is kind of next level. I mean, JDV, you're like the planning expert, but I think it'll be tough to get a tee box like this built on anywhere else on a new golf course now.
You're not building this without basically just paying 24G fines for eternity after this. No, T, I couldn't agree with you more. I think what I also love about this hole is because it's short, they've got this tight little green that you've got to play into. Very well bunkered around it. Coastal bush off the left. And I don't think there's many holes in South Africa, as you say, where you're like on a rocky outcrop on the beach, basically playing a tee box over a small little cove on the ocean to this green. I mean, that is literally how close you are to the beach. This for me is top notch. Again, all the things I love, like it's beautifulully framed. It's a short hole. It's the green complex is tight, which speaks to the short hole, well bunkered. It's very much firmly on my list too.
I think just while we're on Southbroom, I think it's worth mentioning. There's also like I suppose I didn't do an honorable mentions list, but they do have some really good par threes there, and I think it's the 14th at Southbroom is like the opposite of this hole. It's a bit of a beast of a par three, but also like a really beautiful hole. It's not on the coast, but it just has like really interesting. It's like a really interesting green site, and it's like a really challenging par three. So in the longer par three category, I think that 14th would probably get a mention as well. Okay, so we've got our first common one. I'll throw it back to you.
T, I'm gonna steal this from you because I know that I don't know if this would be the one that you would have picked. Gowrie.
Is this from one of Carl Hoffman's favorite courses?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's come up before. I'm picking the 12th at Gowrie, T.
Yeah, that's on my list.
So here it is, and I shout out also the website. It's basically got like the scorecard handbook here. The stroke 18, 120 meters off the white tees, water behind, which I don't really know if that's into play unless you've got like a pumping wind behind you. Reasonably big green. I would say it's quite an interesting green itself in terms of the undulations on the green, but the bunkers around it I think are a major hazard. The way Gowrie is, the Revenant, it's got those tufts of grass in the bunkers, and again, I mean it's pretty severe slopes from those bunkers onto the sort of perched up green, and it's so short that this is one where I think we talk about control your trajectory. This is one where I think you genuinely have to do that, because if you don't control your trajectory here, you can end up short. You've got to control your spin. Especially with Gowrie, those greens can get very soft and you can spin your ball off the green. I think out of all the par threes at Gowrie, including the new ones, this one still holds up for me as just such a lacquer challenge. It looks easy, it should be easy, but it is super tricky.
Yeah, often referred to as the shortest par five in KZN. I think this is a great example of a hole which uses like its sort of penalty areas in some ways, like the bunkers, the hazards, as a visual, like as visual intimidation.
Yes.
And when you're standing on the tee box and you're looking at those, like you can see 3 of them, but there's actually 4 like pretty significant bunkers. Yes. It just looks really hard, and it's exposed to the wind, so the wind sort of funnels down. More often than not, you sort of heading into the wind here because the wind comes from the north, sort of that direction. So again, like for us coming from the coast, we're doing our adjustment for altitude, and then we're trying to adjust for wind. And yeah, it's one of those greens where when you get on the dance floor, you're just so thankful to be on there. And then once once you hit the green, I mean, generally it's a genuine birdie opportunity, JDV.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty flat green, and if you've sort of taken a line towards the pin, then obviously you're not going to have a huge amount of. There are some subtle breaks on the green, but my goodness, there's some big numbers waiting here. I mean, I think guys will remember famously I made a 9 here during our club champs. When I was in contention for B-Div. And you say the water's not in play, JDV. I've hit it into that hazard at the back by just like over clubbing into the wind. So almost trying to like choke down on something and ending up sort of almost hitting it through the wind and then hitting the back slope and rolling into the hazard. You often will find your ball back there, but you'll be hitting out of that long, like thick fescue, and it's pretty much a guaranteed 5 or 6 if you go into there. So no, it's a great hole.
This is one also just to illustrate the point of you can make a hole like that, as penal as it is, because it's playing 150, 120 meters. The issue is if you make that like 160 meters, it's a cuck hole. If you make it anything longer than 150 meters.
Yeah.
And that was my issue with Blair Athol, and maybe I was playing the wrong tees, but Blair Athol, the par 3s were all beast. But it wasn't like, okay, they're all beast and you can bail out. It's like they're all beast and there's hazard front and back. So you've got to hit a distance, and the distance is like 160 altitude. And I'm like, my mind absolutely exploded on all the par 3s at Blair Athol, just because I was like, the scale of it just didn't make sense for me in terms of how penal it was around the green. So I think that's a good example of where it's a very penal hole, but is made fair because it's short.
I agree with that. Yeah. I wanted to touch on what you said around the beginning of the podcast around par 3s having different lengths, and I think that's a really important factor when it comes to, like, for me, when like I'm judging a golf course. Am I hitting 4 7-irons on all the par 3s, or is there a mix? And I suppose you've got to separate like what we're doing now, which is picking specific holes. But I think that's a very interesting component when you think about how you rank a golf course as a whole, is that I think the par 3s actually have quite a big impact on that, because if you have that variety of lengths, I think that's a real plus for a golf course. Certainly there's a number of courses where you just feel like you're hitting the same club, and the par 3s all tend to sort of merge into each other. Cool, JDV. So that's 2 in a row now we've hit. Okay, so I'm going to see if we can make it 3 in a row here, and I'm really hoping
I know which one you're going for, because I know there's one I would almost bet my house that we've both picked.
Okay, is it the course that we have to move the provincial boundaries to include it into? In the par 5 pod, we said we had to do some gerrymandering, where essentially we have to move the boundary, the provincial boundary, to include Wild Coast into KZN, guys. We did this. I think everyone agrees that the Wild Coast is essentially a KZN course. Yep, we take definitely ownership of it. And JDV, for me, the 13th hole at Wild Coast is just like, the first time I played it, I was like, this is one of the coolest, like, sickest par 3s that I've ever seen. You are basically, after you've summited like Mount Everest by driving up what's essentially like Sir Lowry's Pass to get to the tee box from
when you could walk that course, they used to have, like, there's still the remnants of the little, almost like a train track that used. What was it called?
I think it was called the funicular, if that's the.
Maybe. I cannot confirm nor deny if that's the word or not.
Have you ever found yourself on a funicular, JDV?
I mean, I went on something similar in Hong Kong, which took you up. It was like a little tram thing that took you up to the peak there, which seemed pretty similar. But I mean, it's like going up a roller coaster to get to the top there. And I know when they used to be able to walk the course, you would sort of get in there to get to the top of that little peak to play that 13th hole. But I'll let you carry on. That wasn't the one I was going to bet my house on, but absolutely it was in my list.
Okay, so essentially, if you guys haven't been to the Wild Coast, you really need to make a plan to get there. But yeah, basically, because of the fact that the golf course is on leased land, basically. Okay, so they weren't really that constricted with like where they had to build their golf holes. And like, so if you look at the golf course, it's like, it covers a massive footprint because it's like the holes really stretch out. And I think what Gary Player did there was obviously try and find like the most interesting parts of the property to like build holes on. And certainly 12th and the 13th hole like tick that box. So basically the 12th hole is like down like in the bottom of a valley. It's like a pretty interesting par 5. And then you literally like climb up this like massive hill. Obviously you normally in golf carts, and they used to have, like when they first built the course, they had this what I'm pretty sure is called a funicular, which is like a little like railway platform which just goes, used to take people straight up to the top of the hill. So you get to the top of the hill, and then basically this valley that the 12th green was sitting in is now between you and the green site of the 13th, and basically you're hitting from this tee box over this massive valley, which, by the way, also has a waterfall in it on the right-hand side that you can see from the tee box to a green side,
waterfall.
which,
I think it's important to note,
not
given all the
yeah, exactly, not a lost city. This is not like new work Gary Player. This is old school and a natural. You literally often are heading pretty much over that waterfall, and this green site sits on the other side of this gorge. It's a massive green site, and it's got kind of like a huge, got one single big bunker right at the back, and then a huge bank of trees. JDV, because of the way the tee box sits, it's kind of on a diagonal, so they can really change it up as to how far you're hitting here. But generally, you're hitting around about 60. Does that sound about right?
yeah.
Or is it a bit more than that?
I think it's about right, because I know you can go, depending on the wind, you can go anywhere from like an 8 iron to like, I think I had a hybrid 5 there once.
I've legit hit a 4 iron off this tee, JDV, like into the wind. And yeah, I hear you. I think I've also hit like a 7 or an 8 iron. I mean, it depending on the wind direction, it's so wild. Like, it just ticks so many boxes for me in terms of like scenery. You feel like you're on the end of the earth there. I mean, you can't see any of the other holes. The green site is like really beautiful because it's like there is some movement in the green, but it's very subtle. And I mean, I've seen guys have some seriously long putts on that green just because of like the length of club you're hitting. And then behind that green's that beautiful like little bank of trees, which if you go long of the green, you could end up with like some interesting lies. And it's like a truly like stunning. So yeah, I'm pitching that one.
Okay, that's there for me. I can't say anything further. I mean, that's for me. There's a lot of good par 3s at Wild Coast, and I think that's a standout for me too. All right, I'm going for the one that I was going to bet the house on. God, now I hope you've picked it. 12th, Durban Country Club, Prince of Wales.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was there. Yeah,
I don't know if you want to take us through a tee. I'll let you do the honors. You as a golf course architect aficionado will probably know more than I do. We did play this as a little goat track hole at one stage. So yeah, I'll let you chat while it plays through for anyone who wants to watch it on the YouTube. But yeah, I managed to make a par here, believe it or not. But yeah, T, I think, what do you think after it's been sort of upgraded, the upgrades to DCC? I mean, they haven't basically done too much with this other than to change the green itself. Basically, the architecture and the bones of this holes are exactly the same.
So I think that what I love about like a golf hole is like what question is it asking me when I'm standing on the tee? And we spoke about this, and I think we'll speak about this a little bit more with par 4s. With par 5s, often that comes with your second shot. I think this is an example of a hole where it's asking you a very simple question. It's essentially the hole is basically sits on top of like the crest of a dune. So it's the dune that's between like the 11th and the 8th holes. And what they did is they built the tee box and the green almost on the crest, but it's more or less level. I mean, it might be slightly uphill, JDV, but what it's asking is, can you hit a straight shot? That's basically the question. If you stray left or right, you are going to be pretty severely punished. It's not it's not like a hazard or a lateral hazard or whatever, but there's a severe slopes on the left and the right of the green. And the classic, obviously the classic story is the hole's known as the Prince of Wales, because when he came out in the 30s and played DCC, he made a 12. Was it a 12, JDV?
Yeah, it was a
He
12.
made a 12 on the 12th. And really the story was that, he ended up playing ping pong from one side of the green to the other, which is essentially what can happen on that hole.
Well, we should note at this stage that we had a mate, Lucan, so they should call 17 at Durban Country Club the Lucan, because I remember the one club champs, he made 17 at 17. So maybe that's what they should call the 17th. It was pretty sick that Oku was putting in the scores. Whenever someone had like a double-digit number, you had to be like, he was putting in the scores, and then like, whoa, hang on, I've got to go back there. Because obviously it went 1 and then just went straight to the next hole. He's like, no, sorry, I've got to go back and amend this.
Manual edit.
7.
Yeah, look, I think it's a bit tough that that they didn't ask like the Prince of Wales to pick up, just from like a pace of play perspective. So I think the DC members have got something to answer for there.
Do you think, T, they knew it was happening and they were like, God, this is going to be sick? I mean, if the Prince of Wales makes 12 on this par 3, like this is going to go down in history as like an all-time.
They're probably like, keep going. Yeah. Yeah, I think they probably took pride in seeing guys like suffer. Yeah, and then look, JDV, I guess the big talking point is since the renovation, like basically that green used to be like a billiard table. I mean, it was really, really flat. And again, it's almost a bit like the Gowrie 12th. Once you hit the green, you've got genuine birdie opportunity, and it's like just hit a nice straight shot and get onto that green. The wind plays a huge factor there. Again, just like we've spoken about with the other holes, downwind or into the wind. The prevailing wind, you're normally heading into the wind there. It's not a long shot. I mean, it's generally, for someone like myself, it's generally a 9. I would guess. And I guess, yeah, so with the renovation, what they did is they have converted that green into what's known as a Bayritz green. Bayritz green is essentially a green that has a massive like hollow, generally like more or less in the middle of it. So it's like very flat, and then it has a huge sort of like hollow down and then slope up and then flat again on the other side. Couple of famous, it's a template hole in the world of golf architecture. So a lot of people have more or less copied this hole. One of the most famous versions is at North Berwick in Scotland. Apparently the name comes from like a golf course somewhere in France, but what happened is, I think it was CB McDonald's saw the hole at North Berwick, and then they used it as like a template in like when they went to the States. So there's a lot of like golf courses like from the golden age that will have like, okay, this is the Bayritz hole, like some of them have the hole which is like the road hole or whatever. Look, I think it's awesome because there's not very many of those in the country, and I think adding that to the fact that,
in terms of the green or in terms of like the par 3, because again, I mean, there's not many Bayritzes in the country, but in terms of that sort of a style of par 3, I mean, it's such a quirky hole. Again, it's almost like a throwback to that sort of old architecture that's Durban Country Club that still works because it's a bit quirky. I mean, you're not seeing new courses try and build a hole like that.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what you actually are. Like you're seeing new courses in like in other parts of the world that like they'll often put like a Bayritz in because it's like a template hole and it's interesting. Zimbali, interestingly enough, actually has a sort of like a Bayritz green, Old Zimbali, which is the second hole, that short par 4. That green is a little bit of a Bayritz. I mean, look,
you could say the same with Cotswold 13th, the par 5, in terms of the green complex here, but I'm talking more about not the green itself. I'm talking about, in Durban Country Club, it's like you're playing on like this little ridge with, the green is one aspect, but then when I'm talking about putting this hole and like planting it in a new course, you're not going to create this ridge in between, two holes that guys are going to be playing up and down on a par 3 between two holes.
On either side, it's very unlikely. Mostly they'll put the green on one side and have a ridge like feeding towards it. And look, there's a very small minority of people who like the real architecture snobs who believe that like it's like defacing the Mona Lisa by going and doing some of the changes that they've made at Durban Country Club. I don't fall into that category. I think there was a lot that needed to change there, and I think it's like progress. So and changing that green, I don't think it changes the challenge of that hole at all. I think it just changes the contours on the green and honestly makes it like fun and interesting. So I think it's a great hole, and it's definitely on my list as well.
T, I'm going to go to another one that we might, well, let me go to one that we don't, maybe both don't have. I'm going to go with the 10th at Zimbali. I doubt you've got that one, but again, like talking about Blink, this was one that that for me, just when I was thinking of par threes, for some reason this was again just one that sort of popped up in my head. It's the 11th hole, 167 meter par 3 downhill, water on your left, very undulating green. Just for me, bunker on the right, also playing sort of towards the ocean. Again, it's another one for me that just, and maybe all of these sort of seem a bit similar, but it's a very aesthetically pleasing hole, and quite an interesting green complex as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's not on my list, but yeah, I'm glad you like it. Like it's you know what I like about that hole? I think it's like the right amount of downhill. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's enough downhill that there's a little bit of like drama, but it's not like the Cotswold hole. Shout out to Cotswold. I thought you were going to say the 4th at Zimbali.
I know that is one that sort of comes to mind.
That's kind of the signature hole. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult to say why I didn't pick the 4th. It's just the other one, the 11th sticks in my mind a bit, but not in yours.
Okay, JDV. Well, I'm going to throw one at you while we're talking about Zimbali and while we're talking about 4th holes. I'm going to throw the 4th hole of Zimbali Lakes at you. We spoke about this on our Zimbali Lakes pod. Like, sort of interesting location on the golf course because it's one of the few holes that isn't surrounded by what will eventually become like development. So I think it's got like some natural beauty with the forest, and you basically hit over quite a big like little valley, which is like beautiful sort of forested kind of area. It's around about I think the length of the hole actually is one of its strong points because it can change. They can mix that hole up dramatically with different tees. There's a huge tee box there, and the pin, the green is sort of at a diagonal with a slope which runs it runs front to back. So there's a tier about about halfway, I guess, through that green, which slopes sort of back and away. And then it has bunkers on the right, a bunk on the right, and like it's one of those holes where you know which side you don't want to miss, which is right of it. And then I think, as we spoke about in the Zimbali Lakes pod, it's got that like Zimbali Lakes feature of like having these like severe slopes, which are like doing everything they can to like funnel your ball towards the green and the hole, which I think is awesome. Like, I think it's like accessible, and as you mentioned in that pod, we used some of those slopes when we were playing there, chipping like way over the green and letting the ball run back down the slope. So I'm gonna pitch the 4th at Zimbali Lakes to you.
T, I hear it. It's like I said, I do like all of the par 3s at Zimbali Lakes. My issue with them is there's no, and maybe if they move the tees a bit more, but there's no massive variety with the shots that you're hitting. They all seem to be variations of like a downhill par 3 with that like sort of kicks towards the green depending on where you hit it. I do like it, and I hear what you're saying.
So do you think if this is interesting. So do you think if like the other holes were more different, that hole might stand out more for you?
Sense. That is honestly like part of the reason that like the par 3s at Zimbali like Lakes haven't stood out, is that they all seem to be variations of the same hole.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. So I mean, it does actually have an impact on how you choose a particular par 3, is like how it compares relative to the others.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So I'm going to go with, and I can't find a photo of it, unfortunately, but I'm going to have to then speak of it from memory, is the 11th at Princes Grant. So again, I'm just sort of emptying the canister before we get to one that I think we might both have again. What I like about the 11th at Princes Grant is that it's like on the highest point of the property. I think they've done quite a lot of alterations to that green. There's a lot of, it's sort of perched on the top, so
Yeah.
you've got a full 180-degree view of the ocean around you. The wind can absolutely whip there, so it can be an incredibly difficult shots. I think the last couple of times I've been there, I've hit it like a 5 or a 6 iron, and if you miss that green, you've got a very tricky chip, or you're dead, because it's again, it's a perched up green. But I think what they've done there the last time was that they've sort of made the runoff very tightly mown fairway, if not like green itself, so that there's a lot of options, if you do miss the green, on how you want to get it back up there. Very undulating green as well, but I think on a benign sort of non-windy day, it's a lot easier to hit. But I do like Princes Grant, that 11.
Yeah, this would go into like the category for me. We've spoken a lot about shorter holes. This is definitely in like the beast category. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I've got that hole on my list as well.
No ways.
I think
I'm
it's like
about that.
It really exposes you there, like, and in some ways it's not that dissimilar to the 12th at DCC in the fact that it falls off
Both
kind
sides.
of on the left and the right. It's a bit more severe on the left, but you've really got to hit like a really good shot there. I think JDV, the last time I played there, which was in like almost a 3 club wind, I feel like I hit like a 4 or a 5 iron, maybe a 4 iron. Like it was a lot of club that I hit.
It's a beast.
And it's I mean, how far is that hole from the club tees? The 150 maybe?
Yeah, I'd say that sounds right. Sorry, I'm trying to, again, sorry, I need to shout out here. Please, golf courses, if you've got a website, please put like flyovers or some sort of scorecards or something on your website. Like, guys want to see what the holes look like.
So it's like, again, it also depends on the pin location. They've got like a front small portion of the green, which is about 135. The middle of the green is like 150, and then they can put the pin right at the back, and that's like 165. So it's got a lot of potential variation. Like if you're playing into a southwesterly, like which we were the other day, it was an absolute monster, bro. I mean, I think it was 150 playing like 180,
Yeah. That sounds.
Yeah. No, that's a great nomination. I like that. JDV. Okay, so we've got 5 on the list so far. This is the part of the pod where my research starts moving towards being a little bit on the fly.
Okay, let me go then. I've got one more properly researched one. I'm going to go with Champagne Sports 12th.
Yes.
The
So,
par
sorry,
3.
I had this as well.
It's almost like a template of Augusta 12. Is it Augusta 12, AT?
Yeah.
The one that Jordan Spieth shat himself on.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, this has got like a big lake as opposed to like a
small
creek,
lake.
but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, look, and I mean, instead of like gently rolling down into the creek, you're going to be hitting rocks in the front and sort of bouncing off into oblivion. Another one with a pretty sick drop zone, which is like on the damn wall, and you I think you're playing like almost like a trickier angle back when you're playing on the drop zone. But yeah, 3 bunkers at the back if you want to sort of take it safe, and over club, because again it's an elevated tee shot. If you over club and you're in those back 3 bunkers, or even if you're behind those back 3 bunkers and you roll in, you then playing a very sloped. What's the word here? The green is pitched from back to front. So if you do go over, then you've got to contend with a bunker shot that you are playing sort of downhill towards the water.
So hard. Yeah.
And it is pretty severely pitched. Again, like if you're not around the flag, you've got to borrow, and the greens can get quick there. You've got to borrow a huge amount in terms of break. I must say this was for me as a contender for one of the top ones. I think this is an absolutely fantastic par 3 and definitely one of the signature ones at Champagne Sports.
I spoke earlier, JDV, about one of my criteria being like that uncertainty of when the ball's in the air and like what is going to happen. And I don't know if there's a hole that like encapsulates that better than this hole. It's like, it's the right amount of downhill. Again, like I stress that where like I find like, let's say the Simbiti hole or the Cotswold hole is just
too much.
It's just too much. This is like the right amount of downhill where your ball is in the air for just that little bit of extra time. But the difficulty of the hole makes it like so thrilling when you do actually find this green. I mean, as like amateur golfers, for me, this is the sort of hole where if you hit a reasonably, like if you hit a shot that's in the same half of the green as where the pin is, it's like one of those shots that like you'll think about after the round. You know what I mean? It's like, because it's
So
just
yeah.
it's that much of an exciting shot to hit.
The other thing about this tee is the framing of this hole. And I mean, I suppose you could say it about every single hole at Champagne Sports. You know, how they've got the big, what are they, pine trees to you? What sort of trees are they at the back there? But I mean, the trees behind there, and then obviously the
I'm not
berg
sure,
and
boy.
the berg in the background. You know, it just is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful hole just to look at. You know, it's one that you don't want to mess up, because you don't want to, you know, go back and on your phone and look at the photos of the holes that you got and be like, shit, I made like a ring on that hole. I think this is actually a pretty strong contender.
I've like seriously overclubbed on this hole so many times, just for like watching someone else hit in the water, and then taken like way too much club and ended up like in that, like under those trees, like almost like over those bunkers.
Yeah.
And then it's like a really nasty shot, like
Or
like
you just,
back. I mean,
as it lands, you're just crossing fingers. You're like, please get like a lucky bounce, and it like rolls between the bunkers and back onto the green.
off a tree or something. Yeah. It's a really
T, I'm adding that to the list.
Yeah, I've got that on here. Thank you. JDV, I'm going to throw, you know what I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw this one up, and I'm going to see if you can name this hole.
Is this not Gowrie as well? Sorry.
This is not Gowrie, but it's...
What we're looking at here is a huge amount of water,
So
I'm assuming.
we're looking at a green site that's on like a little pinnacle, and then
no, this is Boschhoek.
There's a par 3.
This is
Boschhoek, correct.
Yeah. So I actually did have this. I gave this some thought. I don't like this whole tee, to be honest.
Okay. So let me tell you why I like it. I think that it can be significantly, it can play significantly differently on different days. So because of the way this green is angled like this, if you have a front right pin, so I mean, sorry, this is really shitty. Like we're looking at the picture here, but just to describe this hole to people, this is the 7th/16th hole at Boschhoek, JDV.
Yeah.
And essentially your teeing area is right on the edge of the lake, the dam, which is adjacent to the 6th green. And then you sort of hit over like almost like the left edge of the dam, almost all the way up to the green site, which is, it kind of runs at it's at a diagonal, but it's you're almost heading to the narrow part of the green, so it runs like from right to left.
It's also
And then
severely
it's like
pitched.
It's severely pitched, yeah. So it's really fat on the green's a lot fatter on the front right, which is kind of the much easier location. And then like a back left pin is like an absolute monster. And yeah, it's an interesting part of the round. I think because I've seen a lot of like matches almost decided on this hole. The big bailout tends to be everyone sort of goes way right because there's sort of open space and fairway. And then you're left with quite a difficult chip because you have quite a severe slope on the screen, which runs kind of from back right down towards that front bunker.
Towards the water.
Yeah. So I think it's a scenic hole. I think it plays very differently. I think you can get some interesting bounces on this hole. So it sort of ticks that box for me in terms of, like quirky bounces, using the slopes, etc. I'm interested to hear why you don't like it.
I think for me, I suppose
because you hit a fade.
I think like just it seems a little bit contrived, if that makes sense. I mean, if you look at sort of how it's cut in there and the sort of the that doesn't like fit into the natural surrounds that easily.
Yeah.
The other aspect is when I've played there's like enormous, like the greens have not, or that green in particular, the greens have always been good at Boschhoek. That green in particular seems to take a hammering from people hitting the green, which is tough because it's a very small green. And again, I think the green there is too small for the shot that they're asking you to hit, particularly if it gets a bit firm, where you basically dead if you go long, dead if you go short. You need to have a bit more green available to hit. So yeah, I hear you, and I mean it's an interesting hole, but it definitely wouldn't be on my top 5.
I think if it's playing downwind, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's like almost impossible to land on that. I mean, you basically have to try and just hit that front right portion. Yeah, I think for me the scenery here probably plays a big part. You sort of rounding the edge of this lake, and you've got all those beautiful trees, especially if you play there in like I don't know, end of summer, autumn. It's like it's a stunning location. But yeah, I don't disagree. Maybe there are some problems at the green site.
Okay, T.
Okay,
So
JDV.
we've got six here, and I suppose let's split it into the top 3 and bottom 3 because that's probably the easiest way to then give a ranking. So the 6 that we've got, Prince of Wales.
Can we just clarify that we don't think there's any others that we've possibly both missed, which are real
I'm
clangers.
100% certain there are others that we've probably both missed that someone's going to write and say, hey, you guys missed this one. I'm like, of course we did it. But yeah. I think we've nailed the sort of the obvious ones at least.
Yeah, I mean, the Midland Saddle and Trout Mashy, there's a couple on there which are obvious, and then obviously we'll have most of the Homeowners Association of Augusta writing to us.
Look, I mean,
since that whole course is a par 3.
Honestly, I mean, like Victoria Country Club, I gave it some thought. Nothing like, I mean, again, I've been a member there for ages. Nothing like really stands out. They're all good par 3s, solid, but nothing really stands out. Kloof, nothing stands out. Royal, no. Mklali, no. So I have given it some thoughts, unless there's like an absolute blind spot. Yeah, I think we've got 6 that would stand up to some debate here.
Yeah, I think in the beast category, the only one I would say maybe maybe our 6, if we could add a 7th, would be maybe that 14th hole at Southbroom. I did bring it up. Just in terms of like real challenges, I think that's a pretty underrated par 3 that mainly because it's like really hard.
But going back to like my Malcolm Gladwell thing, it's not one that you think about, well, what are your top par 3s in KZN? That doesn't immediately come to mind. You have to be like, we need like a beast one. Okay, now I want to think about like what are the long
It's a Cinnamon Nouveau. It's a Cinnamon Nouveau selection. What do you call it? The Revenant.
The Revenant.
The Revenant Award.
What are you taking us to there, T? I'm still looking at you, Google Earthing the hell out of it, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just like panning around KZN, making sure.
We haven't left any golf course.
I think we've left a few golf courses on the cutting floor. Shout out to the oaks at Cockstad and Escort. There's a par 3 at Escort that I almost nominated, and I don't want to go into special mentions, but I know you haven't played it or played there. But there's a pretty awesome par 3 there, which is like in natural bush and stuff like that.
And Newtsburg, shout out Newtsburg. There's some good par 3s there, but sorry guys, they're not the best in KZN. Might have the best greens, but.
I think for the interest of time, JDV, I don't see us, I don't see us losing sleep over something that we may have missed at like Port Shepstone, or I think we've got some heavy hitters here. So how do we want to do this?
Okay, I'm going to go through what we've agreed should be on the list, and then we're going to split it into top 3, bottom 4. Well, let's split it into like let's cut 2 out immediately from there. Okay, so we've got the 12th.
We've got
Durban,
6, right?
7. We're going to add Umkho there because we agreed that Umkho. We said we'd add it to the list. This is like the one, remember, with the par 5s. We knew one would obviously be cut, but we wanted it to be part of the.
Okay,
part
Umkho
of the
13th. And the Champagne Sports, what hole
12th.
is that again?
Fourth.
Yeah, I was
So,
gonna
so let
say.
me go through it. I've written them all down here. So they've got the
I've got them
Durban
as well.
Country Club 12th, Prince of Wales, the 12th at Gowrie, the 13th at Wild Coast. The something at Southbroom. What was it at Southbroom?
Fourth.
The 4th at Southbroom, the 7th at Princes Grant, the 4th at Champagne Sports, and the 13th at Umkho. That's our shortlist.
Okay, so JDV, how about we do this? Okay, you tell me which hole you absolutely will not stand for not being in the top 3.
In the top 3.
Yeah, give me 2 holes that you will not stand for them not being in the top 3.
Genuinely, Southbroom 4th. Honestly, I think that's one of the sickest holes in KZN.
Okay.
I mean, I know I should be saying the Prince of Wales, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to go with Champagne Sports 12th.
I mean,
Sorry,
I knew
Champagne
you were
Sports
gonna.
4th.
I knew you were gonna draft that one in. Okay, so my 3 would be
3? Do you get 3? Why do I get 2 and you get 3?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, so you've drafted in Southbroom.
And Champagne.
This is hard because my 2 are not the same as those.
So give your 2. Because they might be
so
my
my
second and
2. Okay, I will come across the aisle here and I'll meet you at Champagne Sports, the 4th.
Okay.
I would like Wild Coast, the 13th,
Okay.
to be in the top 3 as well.
Okay, give me one more. Might as well. Because we've met each other halfway there, so give me another one.
You know what? Can I actually change my mind there? I'd actually rather have Southbroom the 4th than Champagne Sports.
Okay. Okay, but you still got to give me. We're doing top 5, aren't we? We did top 5 par 5s.
Yeah, we are. But now when we're trying to find some common ground here.
Look, I agree. I'm happy to
at
take
the moment
Champagne,
we've got
Southbroom, and Wild Coast.
Okay, so are we saying Champagne, Wild Coast, and Southbroom? That's our top 3.
No, not necessarily top 3, but they're in the top 5. I think we got to put DCC in there as well.
Okay, so we actually just getting rid of.
We're trying to work out which we're getting rid of. Yeah. Are you happy to put DCC, Prince of Wales, in there?
I want to struggle to get rid of Gowrie 12th. Should we just scratch Umkho off now?
Yes. Okay, Umkho's gone.
Okay, let's stop tiptoeing around that one. It's a lovely hole.
So would you take Gowrie over Princes Grant 11?
I would. Would you?
Yeah, I would. Okay, so that's our top 5 then. Champagne, Southbroom, Wild Coast, Durban Country Club, and Gowrie. I mean, specifically the...
So we're taking Princes Grant out. Okay.
Okay, and then in any particular order, if you had to?
I mean, the only way that we're going to be able to do this is if we both rank them and then otherwise I think we're going to be debating here.
Look, I think let's leave it at that.
ages.
Let's put this one out there. We'll get Tucky and Hoff's takes. They might call us idiots, and we can chuck it out onto some of the Goat Track WhatsApp groups, etc., that we've got going, and get some polls going, because I think that's 5 solid ones. I can't completely decide on the fly here which of those 5 is my favorite and my worst.
But I mean, I'm comfortable. If I had to push you for an answer,
I would say
gun to your head.
I've honestly written Southbroom here as number 1, just because I think it speaks to everything that is KZN golf for me. Again, I understand that architecturally and condition-wise, it might not be the best, but for me, quintessentially KZN, what a par 3 is for me, the setting, Southbroom, that Southbroom is up there. Champagne is up there. Durban Country Club, I understand the tradition, I understand the conditioning. I mean, it's honestly, I would take Champagne, Southbroom, trying to decide, probably not Wild Coast. I mean, I would probably say Southbroom, Champagne, Durban Country Club, Wild Coast, and Gowrie. That would be my order.
Champagne, Durban Country Club.
Southbroom, Champagne, Durban Country Club, Wild Coast, Gowrie. So Southbroom 1, Champagne 2, Durban Country Club 3, Wild Coast 4, Gowrie 5.
Okay, well, my ranking would be Wild Coast 1.
Wow, okay.
Wild
Coast 13th, the best in KZN. That
you know when you talk about your Malcolm Gladwell,
Blink.
it's Blink. It's like Champagne 2,
okay,
Gowrie 3, Southbroom 4, DCC 5.
I can get behind that. Honestly, I can get behind that as well. I think I could drop DCC to 4 or 5.
It's got a fucking waterfall, JDV. What else?
Yeah, look.
What else do you want, bro?
I'm happy to pull Wild Coast into the top 3 and drop DCC down.
Yeah.
Look,
anyway,
I think I'm happy with those 5 though.
I think we've done well. We We covered the board nicely. Look, and they're not all short holes either. I mean, Wild Coast and okay. I suppose
Very short.
Wild Coast is basically the only beast left there, but we did have Princes Grant in there as well. Look, on a different day, I could have that Princess Grant hole in there as well. So there's some really strong par threes. Last ports of call here. If you had to nominate sort of two, or let's say, nominate two holes around the world, your favorite par threes.
Around the world.
Yeah, so let's say, obviously, maybe you wouldn't have played them, probably very little chance of playing them, but from a spectator perspective, if you had to draft, if I gave you first pick, what would you take?
Honestly, just because it's like etched into our memories, give me I'm going to be terrible here. The 12th at Augusta?
Augusta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the 12th there.
Yeah.
The 12th at Augusta. Just because I think it's one of the, from like a design perspective, where it is, what it stands for in terms of like the Masters.
We see it every year, and it confounds those guys so much with the wind and the
again,
trees.
It's not a long hole.
It's so sick.
There's risk reward.
So cool.
I think that one. I mean, I'd also say 17 at TPC Sawgrass, similar situation.
Yeah.
Postage stamp. There's another one.
Postage stamp would be on my draft list. It's sad we don't see it very often, but it's such a great hole. I think there's what did I have? TPC. I think those three are probably kind of the most iconic. If you had to kind of narrow it down, like I think outside of that, in holes that we've played in South Africa, I think probably my favorite par three I've played. And you mentioned the Champagne Sports hole almost being a nod to Augusta. The third hole at Blair Athol. I know you mentioned you didn't like the Blair Athol par threes.
With the exception of that one.
That is just a remarkably beautiful hole. And wow, it's like surrounded by those trees and the sides of the green and the bunkers. I think if I had to do a power ranking of par threes in South Africa, I would be surprised if that wasn't in my top three. JDV, this was fun, man. I think we've got a solid list there. I think it's defendable, which is the most important thing. Everyone has their own views. I'm sure the Nutsberg guys will be coming at us hard, but we're here for that. With that, if there's nothing else, let the pod end. Thank you.
Lekker tea.